Here we are, another episode of the Steel Studio. Getting ready for the draft. It's next week. Very exciting. Today we're going to talk about the safety class. This is a need the Steelers will have. We haven't signed a strong safety yet, and I think it's something they'll be looking for in this draft. So we wanted to touch on some things, some position groups that I think that the Steelers will really be going for. I'm here again with NFL expert Chad Schmuck. Hey, Chad.
Rick, how are you, buddy?
Doing great. And let's jump right into this. We ranked them 5-1. And we'll start with the first one here. And this guy is Jalen Peterson. Is that how you say his name? Looks like a stud to me.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about him.
He could be. He's a ball hawk. Ball hawk, really good coverage. Solid tackler, but he really lacks elite speed. He has a little bit tighter hips, and he struggles a little bit with awareness. My comp for him is Buda Baker. I think if he figures it out, he could end up being a real steal in this draft. But the team's going to have to do some work with him with the awareness and kind of reading and reacting to things a little bit quicker. But ball hawk, great ball skills.
What round would you project him in?
I like him middle of the second or early third.
Next guy on our list is Jaquan Brisker, a guy that grew up in Pittsburgh. It's his hometown. I think the Steelers could really be interested in this guy. Tell us about him.
Yeah, he's a good tackler. He's somebody that's going to be excellent in the box. Speed is really going to be a little bit of a problem for him. He has stiffer hips. He really kind of struggles to disguise his coverage. But for somebody, if you want to put him in the box and really affect the run game, this could be the ideal safety for you. Again, I think mid to late second, potentially early third, but a lot of upside with this kid if he figures out the passing game side of it.
He looks pretty stout.
Yes. Ideal size for a safety for sure.
Next on the list, is it Lewis Seen?
Yes. Lewis, a kid out of Georgia, great tackler. He's going to hit you with bad intentions. He's an elite athlete. They describe him as somebody that's going to diagnose a run play and destroy it. He needs to put on some more weight. He put on 15 pounds between his sophomore and junior year. Really needs to do that again. Really reach his full potential. Needs to improve his ball skills a little bit, but as far as just a pure run stopping, he's the best in the class by far. Coming out of Georgia, being coached by Kirby Smart, Mel Tucker. I mean, they know how to coach DBs. Does a lot of things right, and he's somebody that could come in and help you day one. I think probably late first, early second for him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he could sneak into the first round easily.
It's very possible. Very, very possible. I think the Steelers would need to move back into the first round to get him. I think 20 is probably a little high, but you definitely see them making a move to pick him up and get him if he starts to slip a little bit.
And I know Kevin Colbert and Tomlin and all the guys were at the Georgia Pro Day. Of course, there were a lot of guys there to look at, but I'm sure they were looking at him.
Definitely a very, very good prospect.
Now, this next one is my favorite. Dax Hill. I think he can play. He's a good coverage safety. Am I wrong? Am I right?
He can be. I love Dax Hill. Definitely somebody I identified early. Wanted him to go to my college. I was very, very sad when he ended up at Michigan, but he's an elite athlete. Probably the best true athlete for all of the safeties. He ran a 4.3, and he kind of relies on that a little bit. The mental side of the game is something that he really needs to work on. He's good in coverage, but he does a lot of like letting the receiver run past him and then trying to catch up, and relies on that elite speed. So he needs to do a little bit better job of just sticking to coverage. Takes poor angles at times, and he's really not great at shedding blocks yet. But a lot of that, when you go to Michigan and you're an elite athlete, they let you rely on that athleticism a little bit. Once you get him into an NFL system, they coach him up on the finer parts of the game. I think he could end up being the top safety in this class, but he needs a redshirt year. Give him next year to really learn the game. Year 2, he could come out with flying colors and just be a game wrecker for you.
Is he a gut possibility at 20?
I think he could be. I think he really could be. I think a lot of it's going to come down to what quarterbacks and offensive linemen are there. But if there's a run early on those two positions, I think Dax is definitely somebody that they could consider at that 20 position.
The number 1 safety in this class is Kyle Hamilton. How far up ahead of the other guys is this guy? And do you think there's a possibility he could fall to 20?
Not to 20. The Jets are a team for me that if he gets past that second Jets pick, look out, because he could start to come down the board. I think day 1, there's a big gap between him and, say, a Dax Hill. But year 3, if you tell me Dax Hill is the best safety in this class, I would say, okay, makes sense. Hamilton, he's got that elite build for safety. He's on the bigger side. He's really long with his arm, so he can kind of live in a passing lane, really affect the passing game. And he's a good tackler. Man coverage is something that he's not really all that great with. He's going to have to work on it. And he's not an elite athlete. So the problem with him is he's just not – he lacks that true next-level athleticism. So you really question how high really is the ceiling. Notre Dame doesn't play a really tough schedule, so I went back and watched him play the 2 Clemson games his sophomore year, and the Alabama game his sophomore year. And he really played pretty well. He had 25 total tackles in there, 20 solo tackles. So he can play against elite competition, but the lack of athleticism could get him. But I still think he's going to be a solid safety. He'll definitely be the first one off the board. My opinion, somewhere anywhere from 8 to 15 makes a ton of sense for him.
And he's just a hell of a football player, right? I mean, sometimes athleticism is not always the answer.
He's got that mental side. I mean, you can tell he's a leader of a defense, and he can come in and call your plays and get everybody lined up and do everything mentally very, very well. Getting to play, again, at Notre Dame for Marcus Freeman, who I think is an elite defensive coordinator, is going to help him. And I think he steps in day 1 and he's going to be an instant contributor. Could be somebody that's in that Rookie of the Year conversation at the end of the year as well.
Is there any chance the Steelers trade up for this guy?
I think it's possible. Again, I think it's going to depend a lot on quarterback position. I think one thing that the Steelers do is they don't make it a secret who they want in the draft. And I think, Malik Willis is really that guy. So if he comes off the board, I think safety could be right there with tackle is the next obvious position. They've shown with Devin Bush that they're willing to trade up and go get somebody that they've identified. So it's not something that would really surprise me.
So we have a couple sleepers. This is a pretty deep safety class, and your sleepers are these 2 right here. Tell us about these guys.
It really is deep. Yeah, the first guy, Bubba Bolden, is coming out of Miami. He was a kid I compare a lot to Shaun Wade from Ohio State last year. He was somebody early in the year that they were talking about late first round, early round. Now I'm seeing projections where he falls to the 7th rounds. Had some injury issues. He had season-ending ankle injury, as well as a season-ending shoulder injury his sophomore and junior year. So he's got to get past that. Doesn't have top-end speed, and his vision to come into question a little bit, as well as his tackling. But he's got some talent, though. He plays well in the passing game. He's got really good hands. I think he's somebody that you can bring in, sit him for a year, really teach him the finer parts of NFL football, and I think he could potentially get to that 2nd, 3rd round projection that he was last year. And then the other kid, Kirby Joseph's a kid coming out of Illinois, ball hawk, great ball skills. He's got really good range as a deep safety. His eyes aren't always the best. He tends to stare in at the quarterback and causes a beat. But if you can fix that, you've got a kid with great hands. He's going to intercept a lot of balls for you. And he's usually in the right spot. He's got to get better as a tackler. He's got to put his in there and make some tackles. He really didn't show a willingness to do that at Illinois. Most of the time they were down 30, 40 points in the second half, so that might have something to do with it. But he's somebody that if they're willing to put in the work as a developmental player, I think it's somebody that could be a steal in probably the 5th or 6th round. Definitely somebody I'd consider.
Now, there's a couple guys that I thought would be ranked a little higher. Carnell Lake's son, Quentin Lake, and Palamalu's nephew. I think his name's Pala'alu. You know anything about those two?
Yeah, I think, there's just that rawness to both of them. I think they could easily be on somebody's sleeper list. I mean, you're gonna get kids that know how to play football. I mean, they're gonna do the little things well. You don't grow up in those households and not learn to do that. But I think you're really looking special teams contributors early, year 1 and year 2. You're really looking at year 3 before they can come in and really make an impact for you. So both of those guys, if the Steelers don't go safety early, I could see them in day 3 actually grabbing one of those guys. And if they fall to undrafted free agents, I'm not sure they will, but if they do, I expect both of them to be in training camp with the Steelers. So some undrafted guys to kind of keep a lookout for day 3 when things really start going crazy.
Well, hey, man, we just sat and talked for 11 minutes about the safeties. It's not hard to do. We love football and can't wait for next week. Maybe we'll hook up and do a receiver preview here before next week.
Yeah, let's do it. Looking forward to it. 10 days to go. Looking forward to it, and thank you for your time, Rick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chad.
No problem. Bye.